I'm going to try to keep this very basic, very beginner level and easily understandable for everyone, but sometimes I also forget, so it's really good to know. However, this, I should mention, is a talk on the strategic level. So it's not on the tactical level, it's not about how to do things, it's about why to do them. And it's more aimed to let you increase your know-how about the topic. Maybe if you want to find collaboration partners for doing growth hacking. Maybe if you want to hire somebody and increase your expertise in who to hire. Rather than an event where we go technical and look at the how-tos and the quick tips on the tactical level. Because the tactical level, everything on the tactical level, the tools that you use, that you keep on using, and new tools that come up all the time, that changes so very fast, but the strategic value remains the same. So that's why we're starting at the strategic level. So I suppose you've heard of a growth hack? Easiest way to explain it is to just, talk about an example. So basically, when you had Hotmail, free email, that's the first email I had. And there's a reason for that, because Hotmail almost didn't make it. They couldn't really find traction, they couldn't really take off. But they spoke to one of their advisors, one of their investors, and he said, with every outgoing email, add a text which says, P.S. I love you, get your free email at hotmail.com. And when they did that hack, that's when they saw viral, explosive growth. Somebody sent an email to somebody in India who started spreading it there, and from there it took off. So a hack can be just an innovative solution that you come up with, and all of a sudden you've hacked something. Of course, today people talk about life hacks as well. So there's much confusion about what an actual hack is. A life hack is like getting Soylent, which is a product which you drink it 3 times a day, and then you don't have to eat. So you don't have to shop for food, and you don't have to cook. That's a life hack, some people would say. Some people really don't like the connotation about hacking, because hacking is about breaking into computers, right, through the internet and causing damage. So some people call themselves growth hackers, some people call themselves growth marketers, other things. Some people say they just work with growth. It's a very new field. It's only 10 years old. So of course, nothing is set in stone. Another example, the French president won his election because his team, his party, they put a chatbot on their homepage. And that chatbot could answer questions. So as soon as an answer was in the database, it could answer automatically. If it didn't have an answer to a question, the question was forwarded to a human who can answer the question. Then that answer was put in the database. So they never worked double. And so he increased his share of the vote, and then he won president. Hacked campaigning, growth hacking. And like I said, there are a lot of ways to call yourself if you're into this business. Some people say head of growth, growth marketer, growth strategist, chief growth officer. Now it's not so much chief marketing officer, maybe it's chief growth officer that you see out there. Growth optimization consultant. Well, why not? So what is this? Well, I would say that it is a way of working as well as a work philosophy. It's a way of thinking. And it is also, in the best cases, something which has permeated the entire walls of the organization. It's part of the DNA. So it's a workplace culture. Or at least those things, that's what it has been for companies such as these. SaaS companies, software as a service companies, who started doing this from the very start. They really have that part of their organizational DNA, such as Facebook and Google. Because that's where it started 10 years ago in the greater San Francisco area. by these guys. So this is their definition of the phenomenon. I would say that optimally, it's something which involves having cross-functional teams, doing rapid testing, and then doing that in a way that's systematic and doing it over time. So those are 4 things. But not everybody is doing this, and people can say, yeah, we do growth hacking. Or people can say, yeah, I'm a growth hacker, and they're not doing these 4 things. And that's why it's a little bit confusing. So you have the lone wolf growth hacker. That's usually some hero in a company who's trying to do this all on his or her own. We have the, we just happened to do a hack growth hackers. People did something innovative, and it ended up really, really well. They made something go viral. Yeah, that was our hacks. We are growth hackers. You have ad hoc growth hackers. They do it a little bit sometimes. Maybe they throw a hackathon, a hacking marathon. So they work with these principles once every 3 months or so. But doing this with a team involves having a small, diverse teams that can experiment in order to get a product market fit and get something out there that works really, really fast. So first they achieve product market fit, and then they push for growth. Then and only then. And you can visualize this in different ways. You can have different roles or specialists in it. And such a team can be like a SEAL team, right? They can be a specialist team. They can be flexible in scaling up or scaling down, depending on what they need to do. They can add a competency or they can remove a competency. There are some companies like Prezi, the presentation software. They have 50 people in their growth team. And they all come together in one big room every week to have a meeting and attack problems together. And Facebook have 1,000 people or more in their growth team. Because they have a really, as we all know, they have a platform that is very good for experimentation. So you bring in sales, you bring in marketing, you can bring in IT, customer support, developers, all of that, and what you will then achieve is speed of innovation. So that means you don't have lead times in your company. You don't have to wait for someone else to finish, a colleague or another department. If you're a salesperson, you don't have to sit and wait for marketing to write the sales material that you're supposed to use in order to start selling. No silos, especially in larger companies, silos tend to happen. We work with this, we work with this, we hardly ever meet, and we don't much like each other. And you don't just get the speed of innovation, you also get accuracy of innovation. So you get the right kind of innovation that you need to have. And you need to have products and solutions and services that you create with your diverse team in conjunction. You create stuff that is technically feasible and also humanly desirable and also business viable. So that's something that will get into the minds of the people who work in the growth team, into their culture, when they're working individually or when they're working as a team. To actually think, not just focus on their own speciality, but think a little bit outside of that box. And even if they don't, you'll have someone else who does it. So you'll have an insurance. You'll always have somebody who will pull the brake. And that way you're insured more or less, well, more anyways, you're more insured to be not just making a great technical innovation, but you'll be making a great technical innovation that people actually want to use. It's not too clunky. It is humanly desirable. Or you might create a great business model, and then you might find out that, well, this can't really be built in time for us to get it to market. So you'll be insured against things like that, because somebody will pull the brake. Someone on the tech side, for example, for this. Or maybe you create a solution that people really, really love to use, and you research that and you know that they love to use it, but you don't really have a business model because nobody feels that that thing is something that they should have to pay money for. And then you're also screwed. But if you work in a diverse team, you might have a business developer who says, hey, maybe we should actually try to find out if people are ready to pay for this. Raise your hand if you've seen this model before. All right, we have a few hands up in the air. This is called the startup metrics or conversion metrics. That makes kind of sense to call it that. It's also called the pirate metrics, just because the acronym is AARRR, or R in pirate language. And this is the most basic growth hacking model that you can find out there, which pretty much all the growth teams are centered around. And it describes 5 growth levers, as you can see. Sometimes you'll see this model and it has 6. They put an extra one on top called awareness. Sometimes they switch up the order a little bit. They turn revenue and referral around. But this is the general idea. So in the typical software as a service example, anything that has to do with how users are found and they come onto your web page or your landing page or your app, what kind of sources bring it all in, that is called acquisition. That sorts under acquisition. And then when the users are on your site or in your product, you want to see if they understand the value that you present them there. If they understand the solution you have, if they can interact with it, if they do what you want them to do, such as give their email address, or sign up for a demo by a salesperson, or straight away purchase the product. Everything that has to do with that is called activation. Then, once they are in, you really want to find out if they use the product. Do they just purchase it once and never again? Purchase it once and never use it? Or do they actually come back for more? And that sorts under retention. And when they do come back for more, do they feel that what they're paying is adequate? Are they paying too much or too little? That's often the case. If you want to sell luxury handbags, you need to price them at 50,000 SEK, right? If you try to price a luxury handbag at 10,000 SEK, nobody will feel this is a luxury handbag. So you might as well just increase your price by at least 300%, and then maybe you have a good business model. Those things happen all the time. And everything, of course, that has to do with that sorts under revenue. And then finally, when you do have happy customers, how can you entice them to share their experience, their positive experience in social media? Can you build that into your communication or your product or review system? And that's, of course, is referral. That's what it says there. The prime example here is Dropbox. They kind of set the standard, because if I have Dropbox and I invite you to get Dropbox and you sign up for it and you pay for it, then I get more storage space and you get more storage space. So they made this win-win-win thing. And a lot of companies have copied that. But, by the way, that was championed by one of their interns. So that idea to create that very open-minded, innovative company culture. So what growth hacking teams What growth teams do is they try to center their attention around one thing, their true north, the one metric that they can then work towards. And it could be one of those 5, which I just mentioned. It could be driving people to the homepage in order to get data on how people navigate your homepage. You need users for that. Or it could be about trying to activate them once they are on the homepage to do what you want them to do, to purchase something, for example, instead of just not understanding the value or what it's all about and just bouncing off the page and surfing away somewhere else. It could be about increasing the amount of purchases per customer, or it could be about increasing the revenue per product sold, or even trying to get a product to go viral. And in that way, they're actually focusing on what they're supposed to be focusing on. If you haven't heard about it, there's something called the leaky bucket theory. And basically it states that you should try to plug the major holes in your bucket before you try to keep filling it with water. So growth team can plug the major holes or act on the lowest hanging fruits. So for example, when it comes to retention, a lot of companies get that problem that they track and they can see in the data that people are coming on and they understand and they are buying, but they're not using the product and they're not coming back for more. Okay, if that is the case, then maybe that company's or that team's true north should be about fixing retention rather than working with acquisition. Because if they drive more and more people onto the web page, it's still going to be the same, percentage of people that just drop off without making a purchase. So that's money not well spent. Money thrown in the sea, basically. So by fixing that retention problem, making sure that maybe the product is subpar, you can't sell snake oil anymore, you can't have a product that gets shitty reviews and so forth. You fix that, and then you start putting money into driving traffic, and then you'll see that it works out. Because now people understand the value, they can understand and use the product, they get it why they're supposed to pay for it, and things are fine. And here's a little bit pardon the image quality, but this is a little bit, I just wanted to show what the growth hacker usually does vis-a-vis what the digital marketer usually does. So marketers are mostly working in the silo of awareness and acquisition. A marketer will get a raise by driving people to the homepage or getting the likes up in social media and all of that. But most digital marketers have no idea if the people that they source from Instagram or if the people that they source from Facebook are actually the people who purchase the product or even purchase the product several times. So digital marketers can think, oh, we're doing this on Instagram and it's great. We're spending some money, but we're seeing a lot of engagement. Great, we should keep doing that and not focus on Facebook. But actually looking at the data, you might find that, there's a lot of engagement on Instagram because people are young, they don't have the money to pay, but they wish they did, so they're going to like the heck out of it. But you can actually see that it's the Facebook generation that are not so engaged about it. They shut up, but they pay, and because they have the money. Because they're all our parents' age, basically. So growth hackers and growth teams get deeper into the funnel than the marketers actually do. So they might try to improve how the product is marketed and sold, but they might also need to get into the product itself in order to make changes, or even the payment model or the business model. And that's why when you build a growth team, it's also a very good idea to include not just the specialists, the tacticians, who are very good at doing what they do, like more marketing automators or what have you, but you also need to include the strategists, the decision makers, leadership. If you can put all of those people in the room, you have even less lead times, right? You don't have to have a meeting, present it to a boss, wait for the answer, get the answer, yes, we have a go, now we can go. You have that person in the room, and you can just ask them, is it okay if we try this? And like I mentioned, it's doing this in a systematic way over time that will actually make it efficient and make it stick. So if you have regular growth meetings, usually like 1 hour, once a week, every week, the same hour, the same time, then you can get together and you can answer the question, where is our true north and how can we drive growth? And you'll find a lot of synergies when you actually put all these people together. For example, if you put the head of marketing and the head of sales in the same room every week, and they get to know each other and get to talk to each other. Usually marketing and sales hate each other, so this is a good thing, right? Then you might find out that, okay, the marketers work in their silo and they have the job to bring in 1,000 leads. If they can bring in 1,000 leads every month, then they get their bonuses. And the salespeople get the leads and they call on the leads and they try to sell on them. Maybe you'll find that the salespeople think that, well, the leads are kind of crap. We were looking for female CTOs and we're getting housewives and we can't sell on that. If they get together and they decide to tackle the problem together, they might come up with a solution, a test, where the marketers get their bonus, not by getting 1,000 people in, but maybe getting 500 people, and 200 of those actually buy the product. Or if the head of product and the head of customer support comes together and starts talking, you might see that the head of customer support complains a lot about having so many calls, so many tickets, customer calls coming in about people not being able to find something on a homepage. And the product owner, who is also in charge of the homepage often, has no idea. But the product owner says, oh, okay, I'll fix that. Done. Fixes that by just putting a little box of information somewhere, and now people understand how to do it. And all of a sudden, that's 100 tickets every month that are not happening anymore. So if they stayed isolated, of course, customer support aren't going to have a culture of wanting to improve things. They want to have a culture of being faster at replying to their tickets. But put everyone in the same room, and magic starts to happen. So these growth teams in the growth meetings can do growth experiments. Because speed of innovation means that you do rapid tempo testing. You try to do as many tests as possible. And it works just like the scientific model. You come up with a hypothesis, and then you try to verify it or falsify it, or improve it. So you have your little informed hypotheses, you put them in a backlog, and then you execute on them. Just like a scientist will do, like a biologist will be, trying to make a cure for Ebola. They'll do 10,000 experiments in a very structured way. Which means that this team can fail forwards, as it's called. They can fail in a controlled way. Which makes them let go of their fear and become better innovators. And I mean, backlogs are here to stay, I think. Tech teams have been working with them for a really long time, and soon I think most everybody will be working with them. And growth hacking is one of the ways in which to do this. Of course, there are other methodologies which have other names, which do roughly the same thing. But why not include the entire company or the entire team in doing this? Because it's basically doing the right things, instead of just sitting and doing the things that everybody thinks that they should be doing. So you put your experiments in your backlog, and then you rate them. And you can rate them, for example, using something called the Pi score or the ICE score. Pi score being potential, importance, and ease. And ICE score being impact, confidence, and ease. They're quite similar, but just to show one of them. So you have a hypothesis. There's 3 of them in this little one. And you rank it. Okay, the potential of the first experiment on a scale of 10 to 1. How high do I rank it? Well, a little bit more than half, 6. Importance, 5. Ease, yeah, it's super easy. Put a 9. So it ranks 6.66. But the experiment at the bottom has a slightly higher potential at 7. Importance also 7.5. And ease 8.5. So it has a higher total score. Let's do that first. Keeping track of the data and then visualizing it, often in what's called